Okay, so we're going to go down to number 3, and we're going to start seeing parentheses in our equations, okay? Don't panic, because we already know how to get rid of those. We're going to simplify the left-hand side using distribution, okay? So what we're going to do, there's an 8 on the outside of the parentheses. We're going to multiply that by everything on the inside. So we're going to take 8 times 8x, and we're going to have 8 times negative 3. So since there's a minus there, I'm just going to put the minus there. 8 times 3. We'll do it that way. And then I still have equals 104 on the other side. So this side we're going to clean up a little bit and just get rid of the parentheses. So 8 times 8 is 64. That gives us 64x. And then 8 times 3 is 24. And I know this is going to be minus or negative because I had that minus with the 3. It's like 8 times negative 3, which would give me negative 24, since those have opposite signs. Once you do the distribution carefully so that you know that your answer is correct, then you can start doing your normal two-step equation stuff. So what would I do first? Raise your hand to answer.
I can't quite read the top one.
It's 8 times 8x and 8 times 3. Okay? So I have 64x minus 24 equals 104. So would I add or subtract first, or would I divide first? TJ?
Add.
Add. Thank you for raising your hand. So we're going to add 24 to both sides. And so I will get 128 over here equals 64x. They're kind of big numbers, but that's okay. If it's, we're not going to do any crazy long division here. We're just going to divide. Okay, so to get x by itself, we divide by the 64. It's always the number next to the x because we're trying to get x alone. And I can just tell by looking that 6 times 2 is 12. And 4 times 2 is 8, so I know that this is going to be 2. I'm not going to make you guys do a lot of long division with 64 and 128. If you get some big numbers like that, you're welcome to use a calculator to divide those. Okay? So with these, between 3 and 4, you see how we have a little bit of space here? Let's put some steps. So when you have these parentheses, your step 1 is to distribute. That gets rid of the parentheses. Okay? Then you're going to go ahead and undo your plus and minus like you did with two-step equations. And then your last step, you'll undo multiplication and division. For everything that we've got here, you're undoing multiplication using division, but we'll go ahead and write it that way. So you're going to distribute. That gets rid of the parentheses. And then the equations are going to look just like the ones we did yesterday. So it's just like an extra step, and then you go ahead and do addition and subtraction, multiplication, division. Okay, so let's take a look at number 4. So step 1 is to distribute. So we're going to take 4 and multiply it by both of these. So I'm going to have 4 times 1, and then I have just one minus there, so I know if I take a positive times a negative, different signs give me negative. So I'm going to go ahead and just put a minus sign there. That way that's taken care of. I don't have to worry about it. And then I'm going to take 4 times 8x. Okay? So 4 times 1 is 4. 4 times 8 is 32. And it looks like this. Now this is a weird one because we're used to having the x first. So we're going to talk about that a little bit today. I want to get rid of the number that's not attached to the x. So I'm not going to worry about the minus 32 right now because that's stuck to the x. I want to get rid of the 4. It's a positive 4. So to get rid of a positive 4, right, what would we do? Minus 4. Good job. So I'm going to subtract 4 here and 4 over here. And that just takes care of the 4. So I have 164 minus 4, so that's 160. Then this minus sign that was between them, I copy that down when I bring down the 32x. So it's going to be It just kind of becomes a negative, negative 32x. Okay? So I did step 1, we distributed. I did step 2, I subtracted next. So step 3 is we want to get the coefficient off of the x. I want to get rid of the negative 32. Raise your hand if you can tell me how to do that. Jaden?
Plus 32.
No. Right. Divide by 32. Look at what's between the 32 and the x. There's nothing there. So that means this is times.
Negative 32.
So that means we're going to divide by, yes, we want to divide by negative 32. The whole number all together at one time. And so you really want to pay attention to where that is. That negative sign was not between them. It was just in front of the 32. So then x equals, and I'm going to grab a calculator because I don't know what this one is on the top of my head.
Negative 5.
So it'll just comes out 5. All right, so since I have a positive divided by a negative, I know my answer is negative. And then 160 divided by 32, we just did on the calculator, and that is 5. Okay? So far, so good. We're going to do lots of these just so you can get used to all the different little quirky things that'll come up. So hopefully you won't get super confused. And I want to make sure we do some with lots of negatives because I know when we were distributing, some of us struggled with that. Okay, so we're going to take on number 5, negative 7 times 2. I'm going to write that down. And then remember that when we're dividing up coefficients, there's this line in front of this minus sign, which means we're taking negative 7 times negative 5n. You guys remember that, dividing that up? So negative 7 times 2, that's a negative times a positive. They have different signs, which means it's going to come out negative. Over here I have negative 7 and negative 5. Those are same signs. So it's positive. So I'm going to have positive 35n. Now if this is positive, what am I going to put between them to keep them separate? A plus. They have to have either a plus or a minus in there to separate the terms. So if these come out positive, we just change it to a plus. Okay, so I want to get the part with n in it by itself. I'm not going to do anything with the 35. So Rhett, you want to tell me what to do with that negative 14? Add 14. Think spiders and worms. If I have 14 worms and I want to kill them, I'm going to use 14 spiders. I know it's still kind of weird, but that's how we learned it. And that will completely get rid of that. That's gone. Complete annihilation of the negative 14. It's gone. Okay? And so then we can bring down the 35n. And over here we also added 14. You've got to do it to both sides. And we get 175. I know, some of these are big numbers. That's just what happens sometimes. So now I'm down to just 35n. I'm not going to add or subtract that 35 because remember, when it's stuck onto the n like that, it means times. So how do we get rid of multiplication? You want to try again?
Division.
Division. What am I going to divide by? Am I dividing by 35 or 175? 35, because I want to get n by itself, and that's going to get rid of the times 35 that's over here. And then I'll do it to the other side to keep it equal. And then since those are big numbers, I'm just going to use my calculator really quick. 175 divided by 35, and I got another 5. It's a positive 5 this time since everything was positive. Okay, so you guys are getting to do some pretty advanced stuff. You are. 6th graders especially. Technically, what we're doing right now is a 7th grade standard, but since you guys are together, everybody's going to kind of do it together. 6th graders will just get to do it again next year. Actually, everybody's going to get to do it again next year, regardless of which class you're in, because this is just some good algebra. Okay, so let's take a look at number 6. Now, what has changed on number 6? Raise your hand if you see it. What do you think?
It's backwards.
It's backwards. They put the parentheses on the right-hand side. It doesn't really change anything. You still do the same steps. We're just going to start with the right-hand side instead of the left-hand side. I'm going to get rid of the parentheses first by distribution, just like we did on all the others. So the 161 is just going to sit over there by itself for a minute. And I'm going to simplify the right-hand side. So I'm going to take 7 times 5v. And then we're going to think of this, maybe some of you, this will make more sense, as 7 times negative 2. Does that make more sense to some of you? So, because I think that's the way we talked about it before. So 7 times 5v would just be 35v. Over here I have a positive 7 times a negative 2. Those have different signs. So that means my answer is going to be negative. It'll be negative 14. And you can just make it minus 14. You don't have to put plus negative. You can keep it very simple. If that's going to come out negative, just make it minus 14. Okay, so that was all step 1. We distributed. And that just simplifies this right-hand side, got rid of the parentheses. What do we do next? Go ahead, Jaden.
Plus 14.
Plus 14. Plus 14. So then we're going to have 175 again. Those are the same numbers we just had on the last problem. How weird is that?
It's going to be negative 5.
And then
It's positive.
and then we'll bring down the 35v. Very strange, but the computer made these, so it's just a random coincidence. So we'll divide by 35 again to get the v by itself. So it's not always the number that's on the left, it's just the number that's attached to the variable, because that's what's being multiplied by. And that's what we want to get rid of. And so we're going to get 5 again. But we started with different numbers, so at least that part was different. Okay, give you guys a second because I know a couple people are still writing. And we've got 2 more to do at the bottom. So let's take a look at number 7. So step 1 is to do what?
Distribute.
Distribute. So we're going to distribute the 8 over here to get rid of the parentheses. And this 96, I just kind of keep copying as I go down and do each step. You don't want to lose that because that's the other side of your equation. So we're going to have 8 times a and 8 times 4. So 8 times a is just 8a. That's not very exciting. And then 8 times 4 is 32. And what do I put between them?
Plus.
Plus to separate. Everything is positive, so we can just use a plus to separate those. Okay, raise your hand if you want to tell me what the second step will be. What do we do next? Brian.
Subtract 532.
Very good. We're going to subtract 32 over here, and then we're going to subtract 32 over here, because we got to do the same thing to both sides. And so 96 minus 32, 6 minus 2 is 4, 9 minus 3 is 6. So we get 64 equals 8a. Who wants to help me with the next step? Let's get somebody who hasn't answered a whole bunch. Some of you guys are just sitting back being quiet. Sam, go for it.
Divided by 8.
Divide by 8. Awesome. Good job. So divide both sides by 8. And so 64 divided by 8 will just be 8. And over here, the a is all by itself. And we're done.
So 8 or 8 equals 8.
So 8 equals a. All right, we've got just one more example before we'll do a practice problem.
I like these 2-step things.
Good. I'm glad. So on the next one, our distribution is going to be on the right-hand side again. So I've still got 144 on the left side. On the right side, I'm going to take, I keep breaking my lead, sorry, negative 4 times 5p. And then we're going to take negative 4 times negative 6. Remember, we're dividing this in front of that minus sign, so we're going to think of it as negative 4 times negative 6 when we do that distribution. So negative 4 times positive 5, those are different signs, so the answer comes out negative 20. Negative 4 times negative 6, those have the same signs, so positive 24. And then what do we put between if it's positive?
Plus.
Plus. Very good. Who wants to help me with the next step? Go ahead, Rhett.
Minus 24.
Minus 24 on both sides. Very good. And so then we'll have 120 over here, and we'll bring down the negative 20p from this side. What's my last step? Raise your hand if you can tell me. How about somebody who hasn't answered anything all hour? Who's awake? Okay. Well, TJ, it's been a while, so I guess you can answer one.
You divide negative 20p by negative 20.
Good?
And then you do the same thing to the other side.
Do the same thing to the other side. Good. So we're dividing both sides by negative 20.
Equals,
If you want to.
E equals negative 6.
Negative 6. Good. Awesome. You guys are so smart. And that's the end of that.